Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today going to talk some Bears football, a little bit about Trubisky, a little bit about Eddie Jackson. I also have a viewer-submitted question that I'll answer in the episode as well. The Q&A thing didn't work, but hey, people have spoken. But if you still would like to leave messages, the link will be in the description going forward. Once again, anytime you can leave a voice message through your computer for me, and then I'll be able to listen to it and possibly put it on the show to answer. So keep it short and don't troll because I'll just delete it. So anyway. So I want to talk a little bit about Trubisky, and the question from the fan actually relates to Trubisky. Actually, I'm going to start with Eddie Jackson, then we'll get to Trubisky. So I don't understand apologists at all. Let me just start with that. I think of myself as more pragmatic. I like to kind of stick with the facts, as you will. It's not always blatant facts with sports and stuff, but I try to stick to what's logical. And so I don't really get apologists in general. This is not an attack on the players or the fans that like the players, or it's not an attack for you liking the players. It's just the way people go about things. I don't get it. So anyway, but I understand from people's point of view, they might see that, they make sense. So with Eddie Jackson, and I like Eddie Jackson a lot, so I don't got a problem with him. But some of these people just crack me up because they're just contradictory or they don't make any sense. And so I talked a little bit about this and figured, since we got, quarantine time to kill, might as well expand it. Eddie Jackson and this whole narrative that he was quote unquote out of position last year, and that's why he wasn't as good. I just think it's hilarious because essentially what it boils down to, because the same people saying that are the same people who were running up and down last year and this year talking about how elite Eddie Jackson was, how he's the best in the game or top 2, top 3 and all that. If you're so elite in top 3 and then you turn around and say, well, he was out of position, meaning, okay, you didn't see him playing deep middle of the field or over the top, and so that's why he wasn't as good. But if you also in the same breath say he's elite, then how can you turn around and say, oh, well, he's not good when he's not playing a certain type of coverage? If you're elite, then you can be good in both of those spots. So the logic itself makes no sense. And so I that gets me to begin with. And it's not against Eddie Jackson or anybody, but just logically in football, for most positions other than probably quarterback, if you're able to do, if you're elite, if you want to be labeled elite, you're able to not compete, but you're able to produce at a high level in multiple areas. Elite, and again, we live in a 0 to 100 society. Everything's hyperbole. You can't just throw elite out there. And that's the problem. You throw elite out there so much, then elite doesn't mean anything. That's why you hear people saying that stupid term now, God tier, because you kept saying elite so much and top and all-star and all this that it didn't mean anything. You had to make a new one. So anyway, elite, if you feel like he's elite or any player's elite, then there is no, only in this situation is he elite. That's not how that works. So the contradictoriness of it is what already got me. Me personally, I think he's a really good safety all over the field. And so the next point is the whole he was out of position. So this starts with two things, and also more contradiction right here. Number one, it starts because Adrian Amos wasn't there, and we brought in HaHa Clendix, who was more typically a free safety. And so the narrative before the season, and this was a big back and forth I had with a lot of fans, that we're going to be more flexible in coverage. We're going to be able to do a lot more things. You know, he's going to be able to make a lot more plays on the ball than Amos, which is ridiculous for a whole nother reason, but I won't get into that. And so there was that. And it's just like, okay, well, all right, cool. And then somehow by the end of the season that turned in, man, well, you know, since we had Clinton Dix, we didn't have a strong safety, so Eddie Jackson had to do it. No, that is not what happened. That is not what happened at all. And even if it was what happened, you asked for it. You were all clapping it up and so excited for it. And those are the same people excited for Tayshaun Gibson right now, who's the same thing. So anyway, there's all that. So number one, without Amos there, it was very easy for people to just be like, well, Eddie Jackson must have picked up the duties. And I'm like, okay, that's not exactly true. The second part that is missing out of all this is that Eddie Jackson did this stuff last year. Like, a lot of people, and I get it if you came to me and said, hey, his percentage in the box was different, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of people are just like, man, you know, he had to do different things this year. What did he have to do differently? Last I checked, when Eddie was on the field, he played deep middle. He played deep halves. He played some man in the slot. He blitzed sometimes. He played a lot of robber. He did all that last year. And so what you might be trying to say is the frequency was different. And I don't have the numbers on that, and it might have been, but I can tell you just by eyeballing it, which is pretty safe, that it wasn't like Clinton Dix was the free safety and Eddie became the strong safety. It wasn't that. I said before the season that having someone that can play over the middle, and keep in mind, Amos played over the middle too. Not as many snaps, but it's not like we didn't do that. But you were able to do it more with Clinton Dix. But that's not to turn it into that Eddie Jackson was just playing strong safety. That's not what it was. And even if he was, that means different things in different systems. But I said, before we even signed Clinton Dix, before we knew what was going on, when we got Pagano, I said he likes to disguise his coverages a lot more. Everybody's like, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? One of the big things I pointed out, a lot of people talk about the blitzing. I didn't really agree with that. And honestly, we didn't blitz a whole lot. But to me, I said the biggest thing I tell you is that he disguises coverages, especially with his safeties. He liked to move them a lot. And so it didn't really matter if Clinton Dix or Amos was coming in. I do believe Pagano was just in the position where he wanted to do that. Now, all that aside, Eddie Jackson likes to freelance. He likes to freelance. In 2018, we were more of a structured discipline, but he likes to jump the ball. That's why he makes opportunities, or that's why he did make those opportunities. And so as the season went on, I talked about him getting more of a green light, and you have to have a green light as a safety. And so this year, after him blowing up, it was just like, okay, I think it's clear that especially for a new coach coming in, you're going to let Eddie do his thing. He's a big dog now. And so that's kind of what happened. And so again, understanding playing quarters, which we play a good amount of, I would fair to say, by the alignment, by the skill set that we have at corner, it looks like quarters a lot of time. And when you have quarters, you have 4 deep responsibilities. And so usually, since both corners are also deep responsibility, the safety, usually one of the safeties, has more of a green light to gamble, so to speak. You could almost call it like almost like a spy. I mean, we had different calls. My first team I coached, we played a lot of quarters, and we had a safety, more of a hitter, but we had a safety that had the green light. Like, if you thought that the tight end was about to do something, you could jump that pass, or If you thought a route was coming, instead of, retreating deep, you could play it more shallow. Like, you had the green light to jump passes or to, punch it if a quarterback starts scrambling. You could do those different things. And so I could only imagine the green light they gave Eddie Jackson, and by watching him, it looked like it. And so the problem with that is that you leave your corner on the island. That's the whole game of football as far as pass coverage. You get to play a lot more aggressive when you have corners that can handle their own. When you don't have corners that can handle their own, that's why you need safety help. And so when you choose to have your safety be a little more loose, the corner's going to be more vulnerable. And who was that corner most of the time? It was Prince. And I think Kyle just overall is a better corner right now. But also, I just think Prince was being left out to dry sometimes. And so I don't think it's necessarily anything was wrong with Eddie Jackson. The problem is people overinflate what people can do. And I always say this, and I'll keep saying it. It's about how you do it, not what you do. And so I always say that because how you do it determines how easily it can be replicated. And knowing what can be replicated and knowing somebody that is great at something that can be replicated shows you who can be elite. And so jumping the quarterback's passes, that's not going to be easily replicated because not every quarterback is going to be baited the same. Not every throw is going to be pressured. Not every throw is going to be inaccurate. That's going to be maybe, maybe not. You think about that touchdown pass from the Detroit Lions with that backup quarterback. That was a case where you could say, all right, 90% chance I'll be able to get him, and he hit it. And so it's not always a straightforward thing. Now, Eddie Jackson going from the middle of the field to the sideline and staying over the top in coverage with his athletic ability right now, that's replicable. And that's always going to be elite. And so not his ability to do it, but to have that skill, that's always an elite skill. So since he can do that right now and he can keep doing that, that is something that he's going to be great at. But there's other things that he does that you don't know if it's going to work or not. And so it just depends on, what they can do and how they actually do it. And so when I looked at Eddie Jackson this year, did I think he wasn't as fast or as strong or as dedicated or as motivated? No, a lot of those things, I can't even talk about his psychology. But I think physically he was the same Eddie Jackson. And so it just goes down to the fact that if you want to use him, even Troy Polamalu. So if you think about him and even the amount of times that he gets right or did something right, it's a lot of risk involved in letting him to be able to do those things. And so if you guess right most of your career, you're going to look like a genius, a Hall of Famer. But if you're often wrong, it could be a big play. And so it's too early to say about Eddie, but that's what it was. So again, he wasn't out of position. He was in his position. Safety. Safeties play in the box. Safeties play over the top. Safeties play man. Safeties play zone. Safeties blitz. Safeties play the run. That's that position. Again, if he was never over the top or if Ha was always the deep safety, I could understand. And the percentages are probably higher than it was with Amos, but it wasn't the case where it was a complete one-sided thing. Eddie played his position. So there's that. Now Trubisky. So with Eddie Jackson again, I really admire Eddie Jackson. I'm glad we have Eddie. I think he's a great safety. With Trubisky, now this one I don't quite get. And look, we've talked about this for so long and my feelings haven't changed at all. But seeing the apologists, I just don't get where they're coming from. Like, and again, a lot of times when we talk about this, for me, it has nothing to do with Trubisky or the Bears. You could plug in anybody name, any team's organization, whatever. We're just talking about football and how it works. The apologists for Trubisky and how they talk about, I guess, like why he's not performing, it makes no sense football wise to me. Like, I could get it on a level of, and this is what I said all season, I could get it on a level of, hey, it takes everybody to make this thing go. You know, everybody's got to row the boat. I can understand that. And you're like, well, there's times where the support or, you know, the other people weren't producing around him, so it limits what he can do. I could get that. But there's people that act like Trubisky would be a completely different quarterback if it wasn't for Nagy, if it wasn't for Fox, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that. And again, a lot of contradiction with the Bears, because a lot of the players and pieces are the same. The same things that people were praising and defending are the same people they're throwing under the bus the next season. But anyway, people act like he'd be a completely different quarterback. And to me, I just don't get where you're basing that from. I'm not even necessarily arguing, again, it's not really about Trubisky. It's just, what makes you think that? Like, could he be a better quarterback? Yeah. With better support? Yeah. If you put him on the NFC All-Star, if you put him on the NFC Pro Bowl team, could he look like a better quarterback? Yeah, he could. I definitely agree. But do you just think Trubisky's going to become Drew Brees or Tom Brady or any other top quarterback? Do you really think just because, he's with Andy Reid now he's going to look like this? Or he has DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones, now he's able to read coverages a lot better. Or now his accuracy is just that much better. And again, we measure accuracy on completions, so that could be a case of numbers playing, because better receivers can make you look better. And we had a lot of drops. I'll give us that too. But at the same time, that's not exactly what accuracy is. And so we're talking about his actual ability to place the ball. Do you think that's just going to get better because he's got better receivers? Or if he had the Cowboys O-line, vintage Cowboys, is he all of a sudden, going to be able to process information? I don't get the basis of being the apologist for Mitch. But anyway, I think this leads up well into our viewer question coming from Joe. And so I'm going to play his question real quick, and then I'll answer that.
It would be in the best interest for the Chicago Bears organization to have Mitchell Trubisky become a franchise quarterback. Who do you blame most for him not becoming a franchise quarterback? Him, Ryan Pace, John Fox, or Matt Nagy? And do you feel that Matt Nagy is too stubborn to tailor his playbook and his offensive scheme around what Mitchell Trubisky can do and to develop Mitchell Trubisky?
Get into that question about Trubisky and basically blame. Now, I'm not big into blame, but I'll answer the question and state it. First off, as I said, I think it's a team thing. So just putting that out there. But to add to that, between Trubisky, Nagy, and Fox, I believe, I would break it down like this. I would say is 80% Trubisky and 20% Fox. So as far as not becoming a franchise quarterback, quote unquote, I think players are what they are for the most part, especially at quarterback. And so this, again, you gotta erase this mentality, because I hear fans say it and it makes no sense. Trubisky didn't draft himself. He didn't ask to be the number 2 pick in the draft. He didn't ask to be the first quarterback. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to, but my point, he didn't draft himself. So it doesn't matter if Trubisky was drafted as the second pick or the second to last pick. He's still going to be the same player. And that's why when we see players go in later rounds and do things, people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? And it's just like, there's the same player. That round doesn't change you. You're still who you are. And quarterbacks that aren't that great get pushed up because they're quarterbacks. So anyway, so Trubisky is who he is. And there's not a whole lot that you can change about being a quarterback. Like, you can get your arm a little stronger, but you're not going to change the natural ability to throw the ball. You can get more accurate, change up your release and your technique, and that's super hard to keep consistent, but you could do it, and you could get a little more accurate. I don't think that's natural given talent, but you could get a little more accurate, but typically it doesn't happen. The biggest thing you can do is evolve your mental game. And as a quarterback, that's the biggest thing you can do. Or any football player, the biggest thing you can do is evolve your mental game, because everything's about being fast. You're going up against somebody. If you can react and do something faster than the other person, that's going to give you an advantage. And so that's the biggest thing a quarterback can do. That's mostly on the quarterback. Now, here's the 20% I put on Fox. The biggest thing that can be given to a player early in their career is confidence. And not false confidence. Not just, hey, you're a great player. Or not even, hey, we took you with the second pick. That's not real confidence. We're talking about self-efficacy now. We're talking about the psychological side where you believe you can do something. And there's only a few ways you can believe that. And the number one thing is by seeing those results. So again, if I ask Shaquille O'Neal to go to dunk a ball, he's going to be very, very confident he could dunk a ball. We're talking about prime Shaq. But if I ask Shaquille O'Neal to go hit a home run, he's maybe not going to be as confident. Well, I know he won't be because he hasn't done that, but he has dunked the ball a lot. So anyway, you haven't been in the NFL. You haven't proven yourself. You haven't done it yet. So getting that early confidence lets a player say, okay, I can do this. And then that's going to help you process faster. That's going to help you invest and lock in and believe more and have confidence. So that's very important. What John Fox did as far as playing a role in Trubisky's development is that he didn't instill that confidence into, well, I wouldn't say instill. He didn't facilitate that confidence in Trubisky early. It's not a coach's job to put confidence in you, but you want to set up the situation for you to feel confident. That's why they talk about some easy throws early in the game, even for good players. That's why, they talk about some easy shots early in basketball, all that. They want to set up that rhythm. They want to set up that ability to be confident in what you're doing. Trubisky came out there in a bad situation. Not only did they draft him after signing Glennon and pretty much saying Trubisky's going to sit. And not every, but most teams do this. We're going to sit you. Oh, we're going to panic as soon as it looks bad and then put you in. And really, they had no plans of developing a quarterback. They just wanted to have something in the back pocket because the fans are going to be excited either way once it starts in the season. But then once things start to look ugly, okay, now we got another injection of excitement, rookie quarterback. That's what teams are doing. So that's already negative. Then when he goes in there, you got a run-heavy team, which is fine. I think it's fine to have a run-heavy team. But you didn't have a lot of talent at receiver. You didn't have a lot of creativity in the passing game. And it wasn't even like a bunch of bootleg. Like, people forget, Deshaun Watson was the same way. Everyone was going crazy. Deshaun Watson wasn't doing nothing that fancy. I watched those games, and I'm like, bro, they are giving him the most simple like the most simplest concepts you can do off play action and easy dump offs and stuff. And I'm like, okay, the Bears could have did that. Like, you ran the ball probably better than the Texans. So you could have did a lot of play action boots, a lot of whatever, just to set up some easy down the field passes and just get him feeling like I can play in this league. They didn't really do that. And so that kind of lack of everything in his early formative stage where it matters the most, that hurt him. That definitely hurt him. And all signs point to him being more of a sensitive guy. So it definitely hurt his ability to lock in. And so that's that. But everything else is on Trubisky. And not in a negative way, as in Trubisky did something not to be a top flight, physical quarterback. He's just what he is. I mean, he has a big arm, but he is what he is. And I don't know what people expect out of these coaches. So getting to the second part, do I think Nagy's too stubborn to put Trubisky in the sit? Well, basically use plays that he's more comfortable with. I don't know that Nagy's stubborn. I won't go there because I don't know him. But I will say he's not done a good job of catering to Trubisky. Now, with that even being said, I don't believe that is necessarily a good thing to do that. And I don't mean some stuff. He can have input. You can do the things he's comfortable with. You can add in some stuff. But the idea of a Deshaun Watson, and maybe I won't use him because everybody has that weird thing about him. But the idea of any of these quarterbacks coming in, a Lamar Jackson or whatever, where it's like, okay, they don't know how to play traditional quarterback, so let me just do some college stuff or let me dumb down the offense. I think, again, early, yes, that might help. But eventually, I think all these coaches know that you have to play a certain level of football to win. You just have to. And we're not talking about regular season wins. We're not talking about putting up stats, Dak Prescott, 5,000 yards. We're talking about meaningful winning football. And honestly, I mean, I did the film session with Pat Mahomes, who won the Super Bowl. That's the only reason I'm picking him. But you could go down the line. It's a certain type of quarterback that's going to make you the most dangerous. And it's a certain type of offense that tests the best defenses. And that's not the type of offense you would do with Trubisky. So could you be better with it? Absolutely, I think he could be. And again, I don't know if he's necessarily stubborn, but he hasn't done a good job with doing that. And so it could be for different reasons. But whatever the reason is, Nagy has not done a great job with that and tried to do a little more at the end, but he hasn't done a great job with it. And so that answer is yes. But the other part you got to consider is, like, is it the coach's job to make a quarterback look good, or is it a coach's job to win? And so, I mean, yeah, you could argue both ways on that. You could argue that, hey, this is winning type offense. You need to acclimate and get up to that level, or we need to get someone else. Or you could argue, hey, we could just change the whole thing up and do what we do. And so, I mean, look, you saw what the Ravens did 2 times in a row in the playoffs. Are we going to say that that's a winning formula? I don't know. Out of all the decades of football, I can't say that because the proof says otherwise. But to me, I think that's always going to get exposed. And so you want to run the ball. You want to do some things, move in the pocket with Trubisky. Fine. Like, to me, it goes back to football and being able to win a game. It's not about Trubisky. It's not about justifying his pick. It's not about Trubisky looking good. Like, I don't care about that. Like, and if honestly, I don't feel that Nagy should care about that. I've said that for the longest time. This is not Nagy's job to coach Mitch. He's not the head coach of Mitch Trubisky. He's the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And so all this talk about is his responsibility to make Mitch look good, it's just silly for any coach. The quarterback is the quarterback. You, as a coach, you take the player, you coach the players you have. You can't just transform players. And so, again, he can make it easier for Mitch, and that's fine in the short term, or, you know, make it more comfortable for Mitch in the short term. But look, the defense let up some points, or you know, you're going against the offense that can put up some points and the defense let some points up, or the run game isn't working, then all that goes out of the window and you right back to where you are. So that's ultimately how I feel about that. But anyway, that's it for me. Go down the comment section. Let me know what you think. You know, well, if you're an apologist yourself, why you apologizing? What, I wouldn't say that, but what do you base your whole thought process on with saying that Mitch is being, you know, Mitch could be this other quarterback if it wasn't for such and such. And if you're apologist for Eddie Jackson last year, definitely that. And if you got a message, you got a question, a comment, go to the link in the description section, leave a voicemail, and if it's good, I'll put it on the show. So thank you to Joe for doing that. Shout out. Yeah, share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, stay up and bear down.